Now, with appraisals, just to give you a little idea of how appraisals are put together, and again, considering time, this could be a very lengthy conversation, this section here. But due to time constraints, I've summarized as much as I can. Essentially, what we do as appraisers, we go out and we inspect the building for the first appraisal. And then we conduct an on-site inspection every 3 years. Now, not a lot of appraisal organizations do that. Not a lot of appraisers do that. They'll inspect it once and then that's it. They won't look at it again. But what we like to do is go in every 3 years, look at the changes, look at the renovations that have been made, look at the capital replacement costs that have been done. There's a new fence being put in, new retaining walls, new carpet, in the hallways, etc. Has siding changed on the outside? And the way when we get down to the valuation of the building, these are some of the things that we take into account. So we take into account the size of the building, which is the square foot area. We take into account the complexity of the building design. A rectangular building with no balconies is a lot easier to build than if you have a V-shaped or a star-shaped building with lots of juts and jog-outs. That makes it a more expensive property to build at a higher square foot rate. We look at the actual building materials used in the construction of the complex. So we don't just say, well, the annual Western Canadian cost index for a wood frame building is $220 a square foot, because that can vary depending on the materials that are used for your building. So you could have a building that is made with hardy board for the building envelope. You could have one that has vinyl siding, and the difference in cost between hardy and vinyl siding is quite significant. And that also goes into whether your building has vinyl windows or whether it has metal windows, or a steel roof versus a SBS torch-on roof. All of those things matter in the quality of the building. So we strive for being very specific on the materials that are used. We apply percentages to the materials that are used on your building. And what that does, it creates a much, much more accurate appraisal in the end. Quality and design of materials, obviously a very high point here. We want to see if it's an economy quality build with small baseboards, simple kitchens, simple bathrooms, or a high quality design where you have cornice moldings, where you have steam showers, high-end plumbing fixtures, etc. And we also look at the plumbing density of the building. So how many units are in the building, how many bathrooms are in each unit, and how many kitchens are in the complex altogether as well. And you might think that's odd, but if you have, say, for instance, always do the example, if you have a 10,000 square foot building with 25 units and another 10,000 square foot building with 50 units, you can see that the number of plumbing fixtures in the second building is much higher than the first. You will have 25 more bathrooms, you'll have 25 more kitchens. And so therefore your cost of building, even though they're the same size, the same square foot area, the cost of building that second building is much, much higher. So we also take into account the HVAC and mechanical systems. There are some cheaper heating and cooling systems, and there are a lot more expensive ones as well. So it's important to note those and not to overlook those. And then, of course, we look at the special features, amenity rooms, the pools, hot tubs, etc. that many condominiums have in this day and age. Now, all of those, once we gather all of that information there, we run it through our programs, and we derive what's called the building improvements. So that is the actual cost of your building to build your building on that block of land. So you have building improvements, and then the second amount, usually your appraisal will split out three different costings provided, and then a total insurable value of the property. So the first one is the building improvements. That's your superstructure, everything above ground. and your substructure, which is everything below ground, so being parkades or basement levels. The second one here is site improvements, and that's where we include all of your hard landscaping, so driveways, roadways, curbs, lampposts, signage, fencing, pergolas, etc., and patios. And then your softscaping, which is your trees, grass, and shrubs, or any living types of landscaping there. And then the third amount, which is very important, is the demolition and debris removal cost. So just as an aside, if you have a $10 million policy for your condominium complex, the first amount that gets used from that $10 million policy is for demolition and debris removal. So if it costs $1 million to remove all of the debris and demolish that site and clear it to get ready to rebuild, now if it costs $1 million for that, then you've only got $9 million to rebuild your complex. So that's why it's very important for an appraiser to have all of these three components in there so that we can allow your corporation to rebuild to as new and to full value as well. So building improvements plus your site improvements plus your demolition costs, that equals the total insurable value or the total replacement cost of your property. So that's all provided in the first appraisal that you receive from us. And then in years 2 and 3, we provide free updates for the following 2 years. Now, these updates are based on changes in costs on the exact materials in your complex. So once again, we don't increase the cost by using inflation. We don't increase the cost by using a cost index across Western Canada. These costs are localized to how much is hardy board in Calgary, how much are asphalt shingles in Calgary, how much is raw concrete in Calgary. And so the costs are very much associated to your building and then applied by percentages of how much hardy board, how much shingles, and how much concrete that you have in your exact complex there. So it makes it very specific and it makes it very accurate. The updates will also keep the insured value consistent with market costs for reconstruction. So going into years 2 and 3, if construction costs go down significantly, we're going to advise you of that. So this year you're at 2 million. Well, maybe coming into 2025, we might have a decrease in construction costs and you might only have to insure at 1.85 million. And then come into 2026, we might have a bit of an increase and maybe you're up to 1.95 million. So we keep track of all of those costings for you for the next 3 years. So it makes it very easy for the board. It's a no-brainer. We send it to the board sends it to the broker, and then the broker makes the appropriate adjustments to the policy limits. And in those updates, we also add any new construction and fire codes and bylaws that are required. So if something pops up in 2024 that we need to add, then automatically we will update your valuation and we'll update your appraisal to include those new construction and new fire codes as required.